Hi, Joe. Thank you for having us today. We're grateful for this opportunity to present to you our ideas on how to improve your team and your leadership. So, this is our presentation for the Forest Group. We have, my name is Kelly, and then we have with me Arizona, Robert, Zachary, and Cory. So, before we get started, first I want to review just a couple of concepts. I know you read the book by Patrick Lencioni, but just as a quick refresh, we have those five dysfunctions of a team. And when we are working on building all of those concepts, you want to make sure you have a strong base. So starting with trust and then working on conflict and commitment. And when you don't have one, that whole pyramid kind of collapses and it can affect everything else on your team. I also want to just review what a thematic goal is. It's going to be an overall arching goal just for your team. It's going to be qualitative in nature. So it's something that your team is working on in addition to company goals. You're going to have defining objectives within that thematic goal, and these are just smaller branches of that help you reach this overall goal. You also can use a scoreboard when you are explaining what a thematic goal is and keeping track of it along the way. So these scoreboards are just helpful in giving a visual to your team so that you are all on track and are able to see clearly where you're at with this goal. The last concept that I want to review with you before we jump in is psychological safety. And psychological safety is when someone feels safe to express a mistake or a thought or a feeling without fear of repercussion, without fear of negative conflict. So those are just some brief concepts, and then I will turn the time over to Zach.
Hi, Joe. So the business problem that we have identified with your team is that there's a lack of psychological safety, which stems from an absence of trust and a business environment where people are afraid of what will happen if they speak up. From your description that you provided on your team relationships and culture, we have identified a few items that are evidence of this lack of psychological safety. The first of these is that your conflict is not constructive or productive. When conflicts arise, they're perceived as personal rather than work related and are not focused on resolving the issues. Example, this is in your meetings, you're prioritizing consensus over healthy conflict. The team feels that to please you, they just need to agree with you rather than raise important issues in the company. The team's not going to be committed to the ideas presented in the meetings unless they all have a chance to be heard and express their opinion. You say that you want your team to be vulnerable, but you're not willing to be vulnerable yourself with your team. You felt hurt by your own 360-degree feedback, and you disagree with what they presented to you. So you have to be willing to be open with your team and accept their feedback if you want them to open up to you. Your team members feel resentment towards each other, and particularly in relation to what they may perceive as undeserved positions or promotions. They talk about each other behind their backs because they don't trust each other enough to express their true feelings face to face. We've also identified some additional consequences that are resulting from this lack of psychological safety. The first of this is low accountability. You have Jill and William who have unfinished work, but they haven't faced any consequences for that. When they're challenged about their unfinished work, there does not seem to be any real discussion about why it's not getting done. There's also limited accountability for behavioral issues from Jill, Juan, and others on the team. And you yourself admit that you're struggling with leadership transition, time management, and conflict avoidance. You're not being direct with your employees and holding them accountable for their shortcomings and their actions, and this may have led to a respect for your authority. You're assuming that team members will succeed independently without considering their interactions and teamwork. Your team does not have a clear idea of what success looks like other than in terms of profitability. And they're not going to hold each other accountable for company goals if they're only focused on their individual goals around profitability. And finally, you have declining business performance. Jill and Williams' incomplete essential assurance offerings are delaying agency growth, which is essential to expand your operations. The departure of Thomas, who is a high-performing team member, highlights that you're not effectively integrating remote employees and that interdepartmental communication may not be very strong. And with your company's single goal focused around profitability, you have rewards that are directed at individual achievements. This means that employees are siloed in their one-on-one meetings and performance evaluations. They're focused narrowly on their own goals and objectives rather than working together as a team to um, achieve the company objectives. So all these items together demonstrate that you and your team do not have the proper elements of psychological safety and trust in place to fully confront and resolve the issues that you currently face.
Thanks, Zach. So, with all that being said, Joe, we want you to try out the Leadership Mastery Coaching Program that we're implementing, and it's to help you step into your role with more confidence and authority. Now, the goal of this program is to strengthen your decision-making skills, improve team accountability, and make sure that you're leading effectively. So, as you can see here, there's a rundown of what our program will be focusing on. So first, we'll help you with decision making and prioritizing. You'll learn how to make more strategic and confident choices without waiting for full consensus. And second, you will learn how to properly and professionally manage your former peers. We know that transitioning from a colleague to a leader can be tough, and you said that yourself. And even some of us here can attest to that. So don't worry about that. We will give you all the tools that you need to establish authority while maintaining trust within your team. And next, we will focus on conflict resolution and accountability. Right now, it seems that you have difficult team dynamics, especially with Jill and Juan having incomplete tasks and having them not holding them accountable for it. And that is not being directly addressed, which is hindering your progress and overall hurting your team's morale. And finally, time and meeting management. Meetings are obviously running too long and often lack direction. So we're going to work with you on that and restructure them so that they're focused, productive, and action driven. Now, having said all that, here's how we're going to tackle each bullet point of our program. First off, with decision making and prioritization. You'll start with weekly one-on-one coaching for 3 months, and we're going to help you develop a decision-making framework that helps you weigh options quickly, assess risks, and move forward without hesitation. Instead of waiting for full consensus, you'll learn how to gather input efficiently, make the call, get a buy-in, all without slowing things down. And second, managing your former peers. We will be working through real world leadership scenarios where you'll practice like setting expectations with former colleagues. You'll learn how to assert authority while maintaining their trust. You'll learn how to delegate responsibilities clearly and establish a leadership presence without micromanaging or seeming overly passive. We'll also introduce specific coaching on boundary setting so that you can create a professional separation in a way that feels natural. Next, conflict resolution and accountability. Right now, especially with Jill and Juan's behaviors being unchecked, and that's creating frustration across the team. So we will be going through guided role playing exercises. Nothing too serious. These exercises are meant for you to just practice redirecting difficult conversations, addressing poor behavior directly, and basically holding team members accountable in a professional but firm way. We'll also help you develop clear consequences for non-performance so that issues like that don't arise or keep repeating for your members, and they can start holding accountability for their own actions. Now, to reinforce these changes, you'll have a mediator that will sit in on your early meetings. And this person will help you establish your new behavioral norms and keep conversations productive during your meetings. Finally, speaking of meetings, we will work on time and meeting management. Your meetings need structure, and so we'll redesign them to be goal driven, time boxed, and action focused. So that means every meeting will start with clear objectives, have a set time for discussions, and end with assigned action items. There should never be one topic that you spend too much time on, basically. So you'll introduce meeting norms like conflict mining, where challenges are addressed early, or bell ringer leadership, where discussions don't drag on past their purpose. So to build trust with this process, you'll also need to acknowledge your own leadership challenges up front. This creates an openness and a sense of understanding amongst your team. And throughout all of this, we'll be tracking your progress through self-assessments based on Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team. And Joe, by following this plan, you'll make decisions faster, gain the respect of your team, and finally run meetings that drive real results. And that's how we get things back on track. So this is your opportunity to take your leadership to the next level. And we know you're capable, and with the right tools, you'll be able to lead with confidence and make an impact. Now I'm going to turn the time over to my colleagues, Cory and Robert.
Thank you, Ari. Hello, Joe. Here's an example of a thematic goal we developed for your organization: cultivating a collaborative and high-performing team culture. To achieve this, you will focus on 5 key areas. First, enhancing communication and trust. You must create an environment where open communication is the norm, allowing team members to express their concerns and ideas freely. To measure progress, we will conduct biannual surveys that assess your team's perceptions of communication and trust, aiming for at least 30% increase in positive feedback by the next survey cycle. Second, developing leadership skills. It's crucial that you and your team leaders are equipped with the skills to manage conflicts, provide clear direction, and inspire all of your teams. We will implement a leadership training program with a goal of 100% participation within 6 months. Success will be assessed through pre and post training evaluations, targeting a 25% improvement in leadership effectiveness scores. Next, we will focus on building inclusivity and respect. We want to create a culture that values diverse perspectives and fosters mutual respect among all team members. Quarterly anonymous feedback surveys will help us measure this, aiming for at least 85% of team members to feel valued and respected, particularly as we bridge the generational gap between your younger and older employees. Fourth, establishing accountability and performance metrics. Clear performance expectations are vital. We will set specific performance metrics for all team members and review them quarterly. Our target is for at least 90% of team members to meet or exceed their performance goals, ensuring everyone is aligned within the organizational objectives. Finally, strengthening team dynamics. We will organize team building initiatives that promote collaboration and improve relationships. Our goal is to hold at least one team building event each quarter and measure the morale of the team throughout follow-up surveys, aiming for a 40% increase in reported team cohesion and collaboration scores. By implementing your own thematic goal, the Force Group will transition from a dysfunctional team to a cohesive, engaged, and high-performing team.
Okay, so Joe, in conclusion, we've made several recommendations that I will summarize into 3 main areas. The first is the importance of having weekly one-on-one sessions with us for the next 3 months. And next, we've given you several tools to use in your meetings that will help make them more effective. Lastly, utilizing the concept of a thematic goal with your team will help improve performance there as well. So the first of these, the weekly one-on-one coaching sessions, will be important so that I can continue to help you improve your leadership skills by utilizing my experience. My help will give you a different perspective, and I will coach you through problem solving to develop an effective resolution plan for any challenges. It's crucial that you have someone to give you honest and objective feedback so that you can improve your leadership skills and help you overcome any weaknesses that you might have. Also, these weekly meetings will hold you accountable and help keep you focused on improving your team's performance. As you know, being a leader can sometimes be a lonely position, and I will be here to give you emotional support and encouragement that you need as you go through this process of improving your team. Next, I've given you several tools to improve your meeting with your team. As we have already discussed, you will not try to get a consensus. You don't want to have that because if you wait for consensus, you may never get it. And you will be unable to move forward or make progress if you try to get that. What you want is for everybody to weigh in and buy in. You also have to be, one of the tools you need to use is to be vulnerable with your team. This is important because opening up to your team will help them open up to you. And that will help facilitate better communication among your team. And closely related to that principle that we've talked about is the concept of psychological safety. Having psychological safety in your workplace encourages open communication. And when you have that, your team is more likely to share ideas, concerns, feedback, leading to better collaboration. Psychological safety, it enhances learning and growth because mistakes are now viewed as learning opportunities rather than failures. And it also boosts innovation because employees who aren't afraid of negative consequences are more willing to take risk and think of creative solutions. And teams that utilize this are more effective in problem solving. So by creating this safe environment, your team will be less stressed. And finally, we've talked about establishing team norms in your meetings. It's a great tool because it allows members of your team permission to be open and feel safe and embrace others' openness. Lastly, utilizing that thematic goal that we've talked about. This will be the goal that your team has set for a specific time period. Your team will develop this and you will put it on a poster so that it'll be visible to everyone. This works because when you have it out in the open where everyone can see it, it serves as a constant reminder for the members of your team. And seeing your goals daily reinforces commitment and it keeps them at the top of your mind. It also increases motivation. Seeing it in a visual representation on a board makes it seem tangible and inspiring. When these goals are displayed publicly at work, they serve as a personal and a social accountability tool. It's a form of peer pressure that will effectively motivate your team. And also, when you're able to visualize it, it'll help your team prioritize tasks that align with achieving them. This visualization will also help you monitor your progress and your achievements and allow you to adjust your strategies. Finally, seeing progress builds confidence and reinforces the belief that the goal is achievable. So we look forward to working with you. And when do we get started?